Let's create something awesome, game devs. Tony Chan here, and welcome to episode 56 of Game Dev Loadout, where I chat with the best people in our industry 7 days a week, where we'll learn how they got started, the obstacles they face, and the tools they use for success. And now let's chat with today's featured guest, Chess Hall. Chess, it is game time. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Yes, he is the host of the Plus 7 Intelligence podcast, where he interviews game designers, psychologists, and everyday players to discuss how games influence their life and work. This is going to be such a cool episode because we're going to discuss our love for games and how it infected our lives. So go ahead, Chess, give us a bit about your personal life and how did you come up with the idea for your podcast?
Yeah, well, by day, I'm an engineer. I work at NASA's Kennedy Space Center here in Florida, and this kind of all started that I was running a blog, and the idea of it was life lessons that you could learn from video games. And that project was called Live Like You Game. And I wanted to expand and promote the blog with a podcast. So I started working on that. But then I realized that podcasting was, it was actually more fun for me, and it fit my skill set better. So I kind of put the blog on hold and shifted all my attention onto the podcast. And kind of the idea for the podcast came about because I wasn't really satisfied with the conversations that I was hearing about games, and I wanted to bring together a collection of people that were doing awesome things with games, and I wanted to get their stories out there.
Awesome. Now, let's get straight to what the games, games we absolutely love playing in. It could be like our escapism and socializing. Like, what is something we probably don't know about how games affect our life that we should?
Yeah, well, something that's interesting is in popular culture, you'll hear games being talked about as a waste of time and stuff like that. And what I realized is that a lot of gamers, they don't like that idea, but they still act like that's the truth, that they act like their gaming is a waste of time and that nothing in the game matters at all. And so that's how they go through life. And so they don't think about and reflect on the life lessons they've learned from games. So, there's so many things that we do in games that they challenge us and they give us moments of triumph and they connect us with people. And if you consider it all as a waste of time, then you'll never see those things because they'll be invisible to you. But once you put that idea aside, then you'll start seeing all the good things that have happened in games, all the things you've learned from games. So that's the one thing I tell people is, even if it doesn't make sense right now, just act like games are a part of real life, like they matter, and you'll start to see a lot of interesting things fall into place.
Yeah, I think if people just change their perspective on what video games can do for us, like you mentioned earlier, it connects us with people. And if you play educational games, you could learn new knowledge in a fun way. You could exercise like motion control or using like mixed reality with VR. What do you think could be like the next step in the ways games can affect our lives?
Yeah, so this is super interesting. There's a million different ways that people are making games that are going to change our lives, and there's some that are super interesting to me. That some games have been shown in the right cases and the situations to actually help people mentally and even medically. So they found that playing games in certain situations, like if you're in a hospital and you're experiencing pain, the right kind of game can actually take you away and give you a little bit of mental separation from that pain and actually reduce the amount of pain medication required. And this can also be true of for mental health, that games can help with reducing the need for anti-anxiety medication. We talked about this in one of my episodes with Travis Erickson with Child's Play. So if you want to learn more about that, check out Child's Play. They have a thing called the Therapeutic Game Guide, and it's just totally fascinating the kind of ways that games are helping people. And these are games that are off the shelf. These are the games that you are playing that you can go out and get off the shelf and play, and they're already doing amazing things in the right circumstances. But now there are games that are being designed specifically to capitalize on those things, to maximize benefits. And there are actually some in the process of getting like government approval for use as treatments or supplemental treatments. And I think that's just super exciting. And we're going to see all sorts of ways that they can help people mentally and physically. There's just so many cool things coming, and look forward to that because they make a real difference in people's lives.
Yeah, how cool is that video games is going to be, I believe it's going to be huge in the future for just, improving people's life. And that's just so cool to look forward to. Now, let's take this on a more personal level. And, gaming is so fun, and I consider like the best interactive medium ever. Like, what was the greatest impact gaming have had on your life? That one moment that's still vivid in your mind? Be very detailed and tell us that personal story.
Yeah, there was a period where my career was just basically a non-starter. I wasn't doing great. I didn't have really any confidence in my abilities, and it was really rough for me. And the kind of realization that I had that started the idea of digging into games more, not just play them, but to talk about them and to investigate them, was I started to see these little connections of, because I was having a tough time, I started digging into like self-improvement books and stuff like that. And I started to see these connections between what the self-improvement books were telling me and the way that I acted in video games, because I was passionate about video games, but it was hard for me to be passionate about other things. So that passion for games, when I saw that overlap, it started to help me have a passion for my own personal development, and then to write about it, to talk about it. And so that helped me to really dig in and see ways that I could improve my life. And so games were very influential in helping me to get out of a rut, to start being more productive, to get out and be creative, to be confident. So games really helped me, turn my life from, being pretty mediocre and not fulfilling my potential, to now I feel like I'm being way more productive. I'm making things that I like, that I'm proud of, and that other people are enjoying too. So yeah, games definitely really had a big influence on my life.
Yeah, and now you got like a great podcast to talk about how games affect our life, and it's definitely really interesting to listen to. I'm curious, is there like a particular game that just, affected you the most?
It wasn't really a particular game. It was kind of just my overall behavior with games. So at that time, I was just come off of playing Star Wars: The Old Republic, which is a MMORPG. And so I had a guild, and for a while we were doing some pretty good stuff with taking down raid bosses, getting some server firsts or server top 10s and stuff. And so I put a lot of time and effort into making my character as best as it could be, make my guild and my group as good as they could be. So that was kind of the mindset that I was in, that I realized, hey, if I take this and I apply it to my life, then I could really be getting places. And, that kind of behavior has been in a lot of games in my life, a lot of RPGs in my life. But at the time, that was the one that really catalyzed it in my mind.
It's like you're leveling up every time with new gear or something.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the game industry is booming. And aside from like how games can affect our life, is there anything else you are really excited about in the video game industry?
I'm excited that, the industry is growing, and I think more developers are starting to find like their place and starting to find areas that they can be successful. Games that, told deep stories or were emotional or, had the intent to help people. They didn't always have a place that they could be successful in the market and be sustainable. But now with games like Gone Home and Pokemon Go, these are games that probably would not have been successful a few years ago, but now we're starting to see them get media attention, be taken seriously, to be starting trends instead of following trends. So I'm really excited that, these kind of games have a lot of potential to help people and be fun. So I'm excited about, I think I'm starting to see a few more of those really take root.
Yeah, and I played Gone Home, and one that comes to mind is like Journey and Abzu. Those games they're like small games compared to AAA games, and it's just really like fulfilling or like a happiness playing those games. So I definitely look forward to playing more games like that. And let's take it back a bit. So, people, they have this thought that games can make us lazy or make us violent. What do you want to tell people that think like that? I guess so that is there certain actions we could do to help change their perspectives?
Yeah, it's super difficult to change stereotypes and prejudice, and this kind of conversation has been going on for decades. So it's something that's really deep rooted, and even bringing facts to people isn't really going to be convincing. But if you have an idea about these games that they're not good for you, well, just talk to someone who plays games. Ask them why they play games, why they get excited about it, why they like them. And, I think that you'll find that people play games for very relatable reasons, that they're looking for social connection, that they're looking for a way to challenge themselves. They're looking ways to expand their horizons or be creative. And, all those things, you might not see immediately how they get those things from that game, but all those things are very, very deep human needs, and everyone needs those things. So, someone might be playing a game that you do not understand at all, but they're getting something from it that is a human need that you also need. So once you see it from that perspective, you'll see that, games aren't taking down some dark path. They are, fulfilling a need that everybody has. And in that way, they can be very positive. And, so yeah, just open up, talk to people, and you'll see that the games are much easier to understand than you might hear on the radio or, see on news headlines about.
Yeah, something bad or something. Like, and another thing we could talk about is like esports. Like, nobody ever thought that playing video games could get you a ton of money. And now we got tournaments and esports like League of Legends. So like video games have come a long, long way in terms of money as well. And like you say, self-improvement or how it affects our lives. There's so many changes going on. Awesome. The show isn't over yet, Game Devs. At this time, we usually go into crunch time, but since this is a different type of episode, we just call it break time. So basically, Chess, I will ask you quick questions, and you'll be giving us a ton of valuable information in return. Are you ready to crush it and release the show?
Yes, I am.
Yes. So, you are doing a podcast about games, which I still consider being a part of the game industry. What was originally holding you back from joining the game industry?
I just didn't believe that I had the skills, that I had what it takes. Making something, it requires building an audience, getting an audience, and I don't have the greatest charisma skills or personal skills or networking skills. And I thought I just didn't have what it took, but I decided to just focus on the things I was good at, and that kind of got the ball rolling.
I love that. There's so many different avenues into the game industry. You just got to pick one that you really like and just go for it. Keep going at it. What's a personal habit that contributes to your success?
One of my habits is that anything I have to remember, I put on a calendar. Even if it doesn't seem like a big deal, being able to put just a date to it, a reminder on it, that frees up my brain space. I don't have to worry about a lot of stuff. And so that habit has really helped me from stressing out about all the things I have to remember to having a game plan and, planning out my tasks ahead of time, not minute to minute, but just enough that I can, get my hands around it and start working.
Yeah, planning's definitely important. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
A friend of mine really encapsulated a lot of thoughts I was having, and he said it very simply. He said, perfect is the opposite of done. Perfectionism it just gives you an endless stream of excuses for either not starting or not progressing or not releasing your stuff out into the world. So forget being perfect, get stuff done, go make broken, bad art if you have to, cut the perfectionism, and you'll find yourself miles ahead of where you were before.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because on my interviews so far, a lot of developers just said that your first few games is gonna suck. It's just gonna suck, and you just gotta, it's gonna happen. So just keep going. It's not gonna be perfect. As long as you keep going and build out that portfolio, you're good to go. What resources should we game devs use?
So I've dabbled a tiny bit into actually making video games. I haven't gotten very far, but when I have time to get back into it, I'm definitely going to dig into Construct 2 again, or actually Construct 3 is out, and Construct it's a super easy to use system for creating 2D games, and I was frankly just blown away with how easy it was. You'd just be absolutely blown away how fast you can actually create something that looks and feels like a game. I just had a blast with it. So Construct 2 is what I use. Construct 3 I think is on the way. So definitely check those out if you're looking to, get started and make some really simple games and to get your feet wet.
Before people, try to start making games that can have affect people's lives, like maybe like an exercise game or an emotional game, what do you think are key principles developers should keep in mind before creating these type of games?
Yeah, I've actually asked this question to several of my guests and several game designers, and they've all said the same thing, which is you have to start with the fun. You have to start with something, a core that is going to be fun, that is going to be fun, that you've tested is going to be fun, and then build from there. And that can be tricky, especially if you have ambitions for really helping people. You might have to, shift your message a little bit or your purpose, but it's going to pay off in the long run because fun is what allows people to drop their guard and opens you up to trusting the experience and trusting your fellow players. So that's what allows the games to have a positive effect at all. And it's what keeps people coming back so that they, continue to dive into it and experience it more. So you've got to make a game that has a strong element of fun that you're not going to give up. And from there, you can add in the aspects that are going to be valuable to people and are going to change people.
Do you know like a particular game that's really good? Like what's like a good example that people could use, as their like a blueprint?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, I always go back and I think of, think of a game like Tetris that, it doesn't have a prescribed purpose that it's helping people, but there's a lot of evidence that shows that it does, that in certain circumstances, the fact that it's rhythmic and there's patterns that it's, visual and it, requires your attention, that all of that, it's very fun. People find it very sticky. They just love playing it, across generations and demographics, but it actually helps people with certain like stress disorders. I think there was a case where they found that it actually helped people with PTSD. You have to play it, in the right way and stuff like that. It's not just going to magically cure all your problems, but it's a game that's very simple and it's very fun, but it manages to help people. So I always think about that. I'm trying to come up with an idea for a game to help people myself. And so I'm trying to go back to the basics of, what are these things that can be really fun, that are very simple, and that can be building blocks that I can add in my own purpose and be a tool to help people.
Yeah, Tetris is still one of the most popular games of all time. People still love playing that for sure. Chess, we have reached the end. Go ahead and give us a parting piece of guidance of how we can connect with you, and then we'll say goodbye.
Yeah, the best place to find me is plus7intelligence.com. There you can find all the info for the show, and you can find links to every way that you could possibly want to listen to the podcast and subscribe and connect to all the social media. Twitter is the best social media for the show. That's at 7_intelligence. And if you want to talk directly to me, you can DM the Twitter or you can email chess@plus7intelligence.com. And that's chess with one S.
And what's a party piece of guidance you want to leave with?
I just enjoy the games that you enjoy and don't feel like you have to enjoy the games that other people have hype about or don't feel bad if someone calls your game bad or whatever they want to call it. If you enjoy it and you're having fun in it, just enjoy it. That's what games are for. Just ignore all the social pressure.
Yeah, people are really vocal, but yeah, if you enjoy the game, just keep playing it. Game Does, make sure to check out Chess Podcast. It is awesome, and he has some amazing guests that talk about how games affect our life. Chess, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us, and for that, we are truly grateful, and we will catch you next time.
All right. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you. Thank you, Game Devs, for listening, and remember that knowledge is only potential power, execution is the game. I am so excited to announce our first sponsored giveaway with Game Dev Underground, where a winner can get a free 1-hour consultation with the founder, Tim Rusbeck. So if you have any questions on building and launching your game, get on this giveaway ASAP. This is a $1,000 value, and it can be yours. All you have to do is go to the show notes page at GameDevLoadout.com and sign up for my email list. That's it. So until then, keep on making great games, and I will catch you on the next episode. Bye.